Hello, I'm Fast Lawyer. Today we're going to do a Let's Play and initial impressions for Aerofly FS4 Flight Simulator, a game released on the Steam Store July 4th, 2022 for all the major VR headsets. It normally retails for $60. I received a free Steam key through the Steam Creator Connect program to review this game, and I'm testing it out on the MetaQuest 2 using the link cable. Now, it's an initial impressions, not a review, and the reason I'm saying that is because, honestly, I don't have a whole lot of time in flight sims. I do own several different flight sims. I own Microsoft Flight Simulator, I own X-Plane 11, I bought Aerofly FS2, along with several DLC, and there's a bunch of different flight sims that I own. Too many for me to name all of them. But I don't have a whole lot of time actually flying. Maybe altogether, I would estimate 20 to 30 hours, somewhere in that range, I would guess. So not a whole lot of time. So I'm definitely not a flight sim expert. So I don't think calling it a review would be very helpful, because there's people who've spent a whole lot more hours and compared the game. So I think those would be better resources. But I still think this video can be helpful for casual flight sim aficionados, fans like myself who are, just casual flight sim fans, who don't spend hundreds of hours in flight sims, but still enjoy them. And I definitely fall into that category. I wish I could spend hundreds of hours in flight sims because I do enjoy them. But my limited time makes that almost impossible, but I do enjoy it while I'm doing it. And I've been enjoying Aerofly FS4, but there is obviously a big elephant in the room, and that is Microsoft Flight Simulator. So obviously, if the question is, which would I recommend, Microsoft Flight Simulator or Aerofly FS4? The answer for most people is going to be Microsoft Flight Sim, obviously. I think it's pretty much the gold standard right now. Not only the visuals, because obviously it has great visuals, but just all the different things about it. All the different features, from real-time weather to all the different clouds they have. Just the amount of detail in it is astonishing. And that's not to say that Aerofly FS4 is bad. It's not bad. It looks good, but it's just compared to Microsoft Flight Simulator, it doesn't look as good, and it's pretty noticeable. But what advantages does Aerofly FS4 have over other flight sims? And I'm definitely not an expert. Again, that's why I'm not calling this a review. But from my flight sim casual experience, I think there's two advantages it has. First of all, it's just very easy to fly. Not all the models, not in all the scenarios, but if you just want to fly in the air, you choose, like, for example, this challenge, which is very easy. This flight model is just super easy to fly, and you can see you can use your motion controllers to control the flight stick and also your throttle controls. And it's very easy to do, like, barrel rolls. There we go. And we can even do a loop-de-loop. We're going to use the sun as a kind of to guide our loop-de-loop there. And there we go. Come back to the ground. There we go. Pretty good. By the way, you don't have to grab on if you don't want. You can also just use the joysticks. So on your motion controllers, your left and right joystick, your right joystick would control the flight stick, and then your left would control the throttle. By the way, your head does clip through the objects if you move yourself, but a lot of the control panel is interactable. And you can interact with this, but I'm having trouble right now. Let's see. Hold on. There we go. So there it is. And obviously a lot of the switches here you can interact with. I don't know what they do, so I'm just gonna leave them how they were. And you can easily recenter your space with a very quick click of the menu button. Okay, so not bad. It is, as you can see, I don't know if you saw the markers in the sky earlier. That's because this is a challenge, so it shows you basically your flight paths. But you don't have to follow along if you don't want. You can just use this as an easy way to get into the Grand Canyon on this lovely flight model. And as you can see, there's a marker over there for someone that's actually over there, so we can fly towards them. Let's go ahead and let's just get out of here though. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to choose our aircraft with the standard model, with the standard version of the game. There's 20 different aircraft. And what we're going to choose, we're actually going to choose a helicopter. And we're going to choose, not that, there's two different helicopters. We're going to choose the other one, this one. There's different skins you can use. We're going to choose that one, the DRF. The EC-135 is what we're doing. And you can also choose the location. So there's our location. We're actually going to input where we want to be. We want to be in New York. So we're going to type in New York. Now, unfortunately, I'm from Texas. And I tried typing different locations in Texas. And it just didn't work. So beware. Unfortunately, it doesn't have every place. And Texas is one of them, and I'm very sad about that. But anyways, here we are at JFK. And we're just going to load in and start on our helicopter. And at JFK. Again, we can use our motion controllers to grab on. And here's the throttle. But we can also use the joystick. And you can see downtown New York is over there. And it shows you the different markers, for Jamaica. Now you can turn that off. Obviously that's in the settings. I turned it on just because I wanted to see the different markers. So I could easily find stuff. And as you can see, the helicopter, very easy to fly. Very easy to take off. However, ever since I went to New York, my frame rates have dropped substantially. And right now, it's giving me variable frame rates. Now, part of the problem is that my battery for my Quest 2 is dying. I should probably buy a new Quest 2 because the battery is just not very good anymore. Doesn't last as long as it used to. But that's another issue. But I'm getting variable frame rates from 45 frames per second to, it was going as low as 32, I believe. So, but right now it's steadying itself to 45 frames per second. And I do have the lens flare effect on. You can turn that off if you don't enjoy it. And obviously you can get closer to the ground. But now that we're in a higher density area, we are getting lower frame rates. But I will say that I do have graphics at Ultra on my RTX 3080. And if I'm going to fly New York, I probably need to lower that. I do have render scale at 1.0. I did have it at 1.3 earlier. And I was hoping changing it back to 1.0 would help it. But it seems that it does have issues with New York. If you have it on Ultra like I do. But you can see it does look good. Earlier I said, Microsoft Flight Simulator is the gold standard, but still this looks pretty good. And you can just see the outline of the city in front of us, New York, where you can obviously at a distance tell, look at the high rises and all that, and just know that, you're in New York. And if you're from New York, you will recognize some of the landmarkers and such. I will say though that while Microsoft Flight Simulator looks like a almost, I'm not gonna say photorealistic, but pretty close. Well, I'm not gonna say pretty close to it, but in that general area, where this looks more a little bit more cartoony, a little bit more gamified. I would never confuse this with real life looking New York. And so I think the difference between Microsoft Flight Simulator and Aerofly FS4 as far as visual fidelity is a big difference. I think Microsoft Flight Simulator definitely looks better, but it's also more resource intensive. Although right now, like I said, for whatever reason, I'm not getting good frame rates on my Aerofly FS4, which is unusual. Earlier I was getting 90 frames per second, so I'm not sure what's gone wrong. I did mess around with several of the graphical settings, and I might have messed with the wrong thing and made it not run as good now. But like I said, right now when you look down, it looks more on like almost like a comic book version of New York versus a photorealistic version. And I would say very stark contrast with this and Microsoft Flight Simulator that just, like I said, has a better visual fidelity. I don't want to make this a long initial impressions, especially since, like I said, I'm not an expert. I don't have hundreds of flight hours to be able to make a really good comparison. But like I said, I think the advantages that Aerofly FS4 does have is the ease of use. Now, not everything's easy. I did notice an issue like on the Cessna. Getting off the ground is, I think, more difficult than it should be. And I noticed that the flight model veers to the left on my rig. I don't know if it's something particular to my rig, if I'm doing something wrong. But even on the tutorial challenge level, which should be easy for a beginner to get into because it is called a tutorial, there's not enough instructions on how to properly lift off from the ground, and it's just a lot more difficult than it needs to be to lift off versus some of the other aircraft that I tried lifting off and I didn't have any issues. But for whatever reason on the Cessna and some other flight models as well, I've had issues lifting off because the flight controls are either too sensitive, and also they veer to one side versus the other. The other advantage, like I said, is that Aerofly FS4 tends to do better with lower end rigs. Obviously, I'm on an RTX 3080, so I would have no problems running Microsoft Flight Simulator. But for some people who don't have a top end rig, that might be a reason to get Aerofly FS4. Like I said, I did buy Aerofly FS2 and I did buy several of the DLC. So honestly, I would not have bought Aerofly FS4 because, like I said, I already bought FS2 and I have several of the DLC. For me, the enhancements to this version aren't enough to upgrade, to have paid to the upgrade, but I'm definitely thankful for the free Steam key that I was able to upgrade, and definitely does look nicer. But I don't know if it brings enough to the table when your competition is Microsoft Flight Simulator, which, like I said, right now is the gold standard, and probably X-Plane is probably their only real competition as far as what you want out of Flight Sim. I think for most people it would be Microsoft Flight Simulator, but I could see some people preferring X-Plane. But Aerofly FS4 is a good flight simulator, and if you're like a total beginner and just want to get something that's easy to get into, this might be the game for you, and I'll definitely give it a try. But like I said, I'm not going to call this a review because I just don't have enough flight time to do a proper comparison, to do a proper review, so I'm not going to call it that. It's just a let's play initial impressions, and I definitely have enjoyed it, so it is fun. So, if you can afford it, why not get it? And, if you're going to get the other flight sims as well, too, right? Play them all. Anyways, I'm Fast Lawyer. This has been my Let's Play initial impressions for Aerofly FS4. And it is fun flying around New York. I wish I could spend more time in flight sims because I really do like all of them. And I haven't played a flight sim that I didn't enjoy. They're all good in VR. There's not really one that I've ever played that I would say, "Oh, that's awful." Even the ones that are rated very poorly on Steam, I still have had fun in them. So I just like flight sims. Even though like I said, I'm more of a casual player, I do enjoy them, and I think they're very relaxing. It's just fun traveling around and seeing, some recognizable places you've seen before. The sad thing about this is, like I said, I'm from Texas, and I wanted to fly over some locations in Texas that I'm familiar with, and it just really, the detail wasn't really there, to be honest with you guys. So, but in some other locations, like California and New York, there is lots of detail, and you can recognize all the different landmarks and whatnot. So definitely, it looks nice. Definitely here in New York, where I'm flying over. I think those are all my thoughts. And like I said, I have fun, and hope you do too. I hope you enjoyed my video. If you enjoyed my video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have any thoughts on how Aerofly FS4 compares to your flight simulator of choice, please let me know in the comments below. And if I missed something, let me know. And if you want to see me spend more time in flight sims, let me know. Because like I said, I really would love to, just because I want to review all types of different experiences. That's why I can't spend as much time as I want, and also my job gets in the way. But anyways, I'm Fast Lawyer. Hope you enjoyed the video, and happy flying. Goodbye.